Hi, thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to do a video response to Crack Lotus. He just started doing a series of top 5 videos, and his first one, if I remember correctly, is like your top 5 from last gen console only. So no handhelds, just like Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and Wii. So I was commenting on his video, and he was like, "Oh, you should make a video response." And I was like, "Yeah, alright, I'll do that." I feel like this is going to be a little bit redundant. If you guys watch my channel, I'm going to talk about some things I've already talked about. But it's kind of fun to look back at the whole generation, and it's got me thinking of things that I hadn't really thought about before. So anyway, I'll start off here with a 360 game. You guys might remember I had a bit of a falling out with the system, but I do have one again, and Dead Rising is it's really one of my favorite games ever, I think. And it's not one I was very excited about to start with. The premise of it, I was like, it's kind of interesting, but I wasn't even necessarily planning to pick it up. But my friends got it, and I was checking it out, and I just really took a shining to this. And in a way, it reminds me of Illbleed that I was talking about in my Dreamcast video recently. Same kind of thing, not the sort of thing I would have necessarily sought out, but I think the two share some similarities I think just in the reason why I like it so much is that it really invokes this like morbid sense of humor. And that's not really to say that this is a comedy, funny game or anything like that. When you think about humor and horror, you'll tend to think about stuff like Evil Dead and that sort of thing, Army of Darkness, which I like, but not even to that extent. I mean, those were deliberately slapstick, where I think, like, I don't know, just like cheesy horror movies and sometimes just good horror movies can have this really sort of sick, twisted sense of humor to them. Well, maybe even still, playing some scenes seriously and having some real scares and creep outs and gross outs and that sort of stuff. And that's just what this game does, I think. Like, it has real, drama to it, just sort of the way that the story plays out. I really got sucked into it. Like, all the psychopaths that you run into, there's this kind of perverse fascination with, like, what sort of weird, deranged, person are you going to run into in this zombie-infested mall? What's going to happen to these characters that, maybe you've come to care about a little bit, and it dares to have what I think is an appropriate ending for horror movies. Not, I don't want to give away too much, but I mean, there's kind of a good and a bad ending, and I really sort of like that ending where things kind of go to hell, and this really just hits the right notes for me, and just in terms of like the kind of horror that I like, I guess. And that's nothing to say about like the whole game system, which I think is fantastic. When you get into it, I think there's some it might be a little off-putting to some people at first, where you pretty much have to start the game over again, keeping your levels and the moves you've unlocked and stuff like that into a new playthrough at one point, because it's just going to get too hard. It's just how the game is. It's kind of horror movie in that respect too, and it just it blew me away and it stuck with me. Dead Rising. The second one doesn't. It's good, actually. The second one was pretty decent, and I obviously haven't played the third one because I don't have an Xbox One. But the first one, like, this is, I don't think anything's going to touch this. It was just a really excellent experience from last gen. Moving along, Dragon Age Origins. This is just. This is something I played actually right after I played Mass Effect, and Mass Effect really blew me away. There's just something about seeing that sort of like Star Wars-esque science fiction universe, sort of space opera thing, with this real focus on dialogue and talking with the characters and just sort of going around and interacting. That was a really cool thing, and so I came into this. And honestly, at first I was a little disappointed because, as far as I was concerned, the graphics weren't as good as Mass Effect, and they kept that same sort of dialogue um, system to a certain extent, but it seemed almost like a step down. But after playing this, I just remember what a big impact this had on me. Just, I don't think I got a platinum in it, but I just really liked the world that they built in this. I mean, it was a long time ago that I played this, so I'm not really gonna I think be able to articulate really well what I remember. Maybe it's mostly nostalgia that I feel for Dragon Age, but it almost just kind of brought that Western RPG back to the forefront for me. I guess maybe just harkening back to like Baldur's Gate and those kind of games. I mean, this is BioWare, and that's kind of what they were doing, and I think they did it with this game. I'm really hoping that they can do it with Dragon's Age 3, and maybe someday I'll go back and try to play 2, but this was easily one of, my top 5 experiences from last gen. I try not to be quite so long-winded with the rest of these. You guys probably are expecting this, but Hyper Dimension Neptunia Mark II, and these games, I think, they probably, I mean, I guess if it was just sort of an anime-styled, and I think I've called them an action RPG before, they really aren't. They feel actiony, but it's a turn-based RPG. You just, you have free movement on the field, but it's an RPG. It's like a 3D modern JRPG. If that's all that this was, then it would probably be, middle of the road, like decent. But I really think that it's the that whole premise, I think that hook that got people, where it's really just poking fun and having a jab at the video game industry, which I think is really cool. And not only that, this one in particular, I think what I liked a lot about it is the way that it personified not just the game systems, but it personified the game companies. It's really like self-referential otaku, humor or sort of in-jokes to a certain extent about video gaming, which I don't think video gaming really has, enough self-referential kind of things. So that alone, I think, really raises this above. I mean, for me, certainly any of the other JRPGs and most of the other games that I played last gen. Additionally, it's the characters are fun. Like there was decent writing in these, probably on both the Japanese and the localization script too. So just really easily in my top 5 here. And this isn't necessarily in any order, so one of my favorites from last gen. And after this, things get dicey. I actually have a whole bunch of games here, and I will go through these quickly because I don't have as much to say about all of them, but probably a shoe-in is Hatsune Miku Project Diva F. So I would say the rest of these maybe are vying for number 5, so I'm really cheating here. But this one, it feels like a guilty pleasure to me. Even when it got my sort of game of last year, I was like, man, what am I talking about here? But I figured out what it is with this is, it's not just a rhythm game, and it's not just got, anime-styled characters in it and that sort of thing. And, I mean, this feels like modern-day science fiction in a way where you have, a fully synthesized voice. And not only that, but I really love the sort of the way that it's really democratized. It like the people, I guess Yamaha and the people that are producing these were really smart in making the characters, well, one, just putting characters to the voices. I mean, if you didn't have the characters to go with these voices, the music would be good, but it would, you would sort of lack that persona to really latch onto, which I think gives them a lot of strength. And then, beyond that, the voices and the likenesses can be used by anyone. So you have this really amazing, it's really this grassroots musical movement, so to speak, where all these people are using these voices for their music, and you know, it's just it's really an amazing thing that I think goes far beyond this game on its own, and I think it's sort of encapsulated a bit in these games when they come out. I think it's interesting because they're just kind of the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more underneath them, and I think this really deserves to be on my top 5 from last gen. And next, so I'm just going to quickly go over, I guess, games that almost made it. And you know, Yakuza 4, kind of like I said in my top games from last year, this really it's kind of right up there with all the rest of them. This might as well be on my top 5. The Yakuza games are excellent, and I did not know what I was missing when I hadn't played any of these before. But I can say that this seems, to me at least, like the most interesting of them. Just because you get to play as the different characters, and they're all interesting. Anyway, if you're out there clamoring for a Shenmue 3, this is what we get. Play the Yakuza games. This is Shenmue 3. We may never get, you know, real Shenmue follow-up to the story, etc., etc., but this is, you know, people that worked on Shenmue, the publisher of Shenmue. This is the spiritual successor. This is our Shenmue, and you know, from last gen, this was the, you know, probably the best Yakuza game. It's the only one I played, so for me, it's the best. Really excellent. I didn't think I would enjoy the story or anything. The story is great. The whole city simulation and doing all that Shenmue kind of stuff, just going into random shops and video game arcades and playing, you know, side games and all the stuff that you would want to do. It has it. It's really amazing. Certainly a close runner-up is Skyrim and the whole Elder Scrolls series. We I guess got 2 real Elder Scrolls last gen, and Skyrim is great. Played a whole ton of that. And, you know, some other stuff, too, that I just have great memories of. Honestly, Imabiki So, this stuck with me a bit, you know? Just out of last gen, you know, I've got a couple of visual novels here. I guess this one and another one, so that's kind of it. But, you know, in something like a genre that I think is a little bit tapped out, like survival horror, and maybe this isn't really survival horror, this is just horror, it's like a horror story, a visual novel, you know, multiple paths and things like that. I guess it's not right in my top 5 because I never got multiple endings on it, but the one I got was interesting, and it just looking back on my whole experience with last gen, this was a really fun and unique thing for me. I really liked that. Similarly, and one of my favorite video game mechanics, I think, also something I liked about Dead Rising, is Hakuna Matata, otherwise known as Africa, a photography game set in, you know, sort of the African savannah is the word I was looking for. Excellent game, a really early game on the PlayStation, and one that I really enjoyed so much. You know, I feel guilty because I haven't finished this one, but the time that I spent with it was just so much fun, and you know, I'm looking forward to going back and playing this one again. This is definitely one that I'll revisit. I think it's one you can go back to at any time. I mean, maybe in 15 years when graphics have, you know, are super real, this will look pretty dated, but it's a really neat experience to play through, just sort of driving around in a Jeep and snapping photos of different animals. You get different missions and stuff. Just a great game from last gen. Next, other runner-up is Final Fantasy 13. I know this game gets a lot of hate, and I'm realizing that the fact that I played this in Japanese might have made this more enjoyable for me in a couple respects. One, it's possible that the localization of this, from the script to just the translation of certain things to, you know, the voice acting, any of those things actually might have made this somewhat less enjoyable than the Japanese version. And additionally, you know, when you're playing something in a foreign language, everything seems a little mysterious and just extra interesting, I guess. Sometimes when that mystique is taken away a little bit, and you really, it's just pedestrian, you really understand what's going on, it takes a little bit of the mystery away. So it might have just been that because I was playing this in Japanese, my opinion was colored, but I loved this game. I had fun with the battle system. The graphics are amazing, and I thought the story is so-so, but the characters I thought were better than 12, and I thought it was pretty decent. So I liked it. I liked that game a lot. And I guess my last two three, four, I don't know, standout experiences from last gen. Boku no Natsuyasumi 3. This, again, I guess maybe earlier in the gen I was branching out a little bit more. I was trying different experiences, and this is just such a beautiful, relaxing, fun game where you just play out this kid's summer vacation. One of my faves from last gen. I beat this few times. I got 2 or 3 of the endings, and I never really did all that well in some of the stuff. I didn't collect all the bottle caps or do very well at the bug sumo or the bug collecting or any of that stuff. But it was just fun, just the idea of being able to play some kid's summer vacation back before video games, as a video game. It's pretty meta, and it's a really unique experience from last gen. And another one that definitely stuck with me is White Album. This is, I guess, in some ways it almost feels like a guilty pleasure, because I'm thinking back and I'm like, well, what was really great about this? Were the characters really that great? Was the story really that good? But I did play through 3 of the routes on this, and I think what I look back fondly on this is that it's kind of a next-gen visual novel for me. It was really that whole sort of motion portrait system that they have. I felt like really brought things to the next level. Just the high-def graphics, the voice work on this. It was something really special last gen, and just combine that with decent story and characters. I really had a lot of fun playing that game. So there's that. And lastly, Catherine. I feel like sort of leaving this off of a summary of last gen. You guys probably know that I played this recently. I hadn't finished it. I just talked about it not so long ago, where I went back and actually finished it up. And I think in doing so, it really reminded me how interesting a story it has. One I think that's especially relevant. I mean, maybe more so to male than female gamers, but I've seen so many female gamers on YouTube that just love that game that I guess I'm wrong about that. That it's relevant, I think, to gamers that are getting older. And I have an article that I read recently I'd actually like to do a different vlog about, that it really captures some of my frustrations with gaming right now. Just in that, gamers are growing up, and, some of us have played a lot of games, and we're not in that 20-year-old demographic anymore. I'm going to not be in the 30-year-old demographic in a few years here. And, it's really special, I think, especially sort of last gen, to find a game that really acknowledges that and takes a chance and says, okay, we're not going to make a Twitch game for kids. We're gonna make something that it is challenges your mind and sort of engages you in things that really you really relate to now. And the story alone in this, I just think I think back on it. I come back to things. I almost feel like I've grown a little bit as a person just by playing that game. So another highlight from last gen. So that was my really long 5 games from last gen. It was like 12. Resident Evil 5, I think, bears mention in there just because that's one of my favorite Resident Evils and one of my favorite franchises. I think that was soured a bit by Resident Evil 6, so maybe that's why I didn't even think to grab that off my shelf. But anyway, I just wanted to talk about some of the games that I really liked last gen. Hope that was fun. Thank you, Crack Lotus, very much for making that video, and I hope you'll join me again next time for more video game related videos. Thanks for watching.